This is a disclaimer. All right, this is the disclaimer. You're being recorded. Actually, the first thing on our agenda is the update from Miss Prin. So I'll turn it over to you, Miss Prin, if you're be willing to take questions then afterwards.
Yeah, so it has Mr. Bauerman, I know he's on, so just jump in with me. It's been a very busy start with also with the snow cancellations and the delays with the MCPS information that goes to families. Really, quite frankly, really right as you get it or at the same time you get it or a few minutes before at times we get it. But it has been very busy between the snow and the COVID protocols, the COVID test kits that are going out. They went home today, as you well know. We're hoping, now it's not mandated, but it's worded that MCPS is really highly recommending families test this evening and report their test positive or negative. And so we had sign out for every child. We marked every child's rapid kit so that we can track where it went, made sure it went home. We do have several that did not go home because the children were absent for various reasons, not solely because of COVID, but various reasons. And they are now organized in the office by grade level, by class, by teacher for when parents do come to school to pick them up, or when the student returns, we'll send them home. We are still waiting for the K95 masks that were to come. We did get a shipment for staff members. They're the adult ones, and they get a K95 mask each week. And we are told that the student K95 masks are coming this week, but they've not yet arrived at school. We had, as you know, the Christmas break and then those 2 days of snow, while they were a headache and planning to come back, and for our families that had to change schedules quickly and on the spot for many reasons, it did help us get ahead a little bit of those students that maybe tested positive and needed to let us know. So I know that on the first night, where the dashboard, the MCPS dashboard, which is the way they report positive cases, we had a low percentage. And then if you looked again, that was like on that Tuesday, and then on Wednesday, it jumped. And the main reason it jumped is not because students came to school on Wednesday after that delay and tested positive. Most of that jump was because families didn't all report over break when their children got sick. They reported on the day back to school, by the way, my child tested positive over the break. So they were not necessarily back at school. Most of that jump in those positive cases occurred over break. And so they did not come back, and we didn't have high exposure from that. I will say this week has been very busy. And I want to say, Matthew, you can jump in with me on this. When we do have a positive case, I'm going to give you an example. If we have a positive case, that could mean 15 follow-up phone calls, 15 follow-up letters that have to go out, and one to the positive case. So a lot of this work is just making sure all families know what happened, when it happened, how it happened, and can, you know, sort of the context without exposing confidentiality. So that is really what has been a time consumer for both, I would say, Matthew, myself, Madam Riley, she's doing it. Our reading specialist and staff development teacher, they came down. We have such great staff. I mean, everybody is all hands on. The reading specialist and staff development teacher came down the day the kits came and said, we'll organize them. We'll put all the we'll print labels of all students' name. We'll organize them by teacher. We'll do the check-in. So teachers literally just had to come, get all of their kits, go back and make sure they had the directions to send them home. So we have a lot of help, but it's been very busy. I think probably what Matthew and I and Michelle Ann would say is we're grateful for the trust that our school has in us. We are doing our very best, and in most cases go beyond what the county requires for safety practices, and will continue to do so. I know tonight we were making, this is why we're both still joining from school and not home. We still have calls to make following the meeting this evening, but we're getting close to being done. So it's just all of it takes time, and it's just families are anxious, and whatever we can do to lessen that worry, we will do it. We don't want our children to worry. We want them to be well. I will say when they're here, learning is happening. They're happy to be in school. They didn't even mind indoor recess this week. We're thrilled that they're here. We wouldn't want it any other way. But it just has really changed how we move. I am happy to answer any specific questions. I'm sure you have many. We did get, as you know, guidance, and I know you know because you get the MCPS updates, but we did even have updates from January 9th. So we get updates. We follow the guidance very closely. Matthew and I, Michelle Ann, we sit together every morning, talk about who got emails, who made phone calls. We work through, okay, so what does this mean? What is this? Who's making the calls? Who's doing the letters? And then we sit together in the middle of the day to do a check-in. Where are we with it? And then we sit together again at the end of the day before we go home. So we're all on the same page, moving in the same direction, following guidance. So I'd like to say it's busy, but I think all of our roles, whether you're a parent, things are different and busy, and you are true champions, whether you're an educator or whether you're trying to manage the school and outside back to work. So really, I know you've heard it before, we're all in it together, but we really feel it. And I can't tell you the joy it brings and the comfort when we have to make a difficult call to a parent to say possibly their child was exposed. We have only been met with grace and kindness and understanding, and that is not how everybody, other schools don't all have that same experience. So I'm truly so grateful to be with you. And I know Matthew feels the same way. So if anybody has any questions about specifics, I know this week, most of the changes for COVID related around staff, because staff originally, if staff tested positive, they would have to quarantine for the full 10 days. And as you know, the CDC sometime over winter break reduced it to 5. The first week back, MCPS did not adjust that. But this week, they adjusted it to 5 days. If they test positive, they can quarantine with 5 days, as long as they are symptom-free, with largely reduced symptoms, fever-free, they can return. I will say Matthew and I care for our staff and our children as first and foremost. I never rush anybody to come back. If they're not well, I don't want them here for themselves. I need them here 100% when they're here, and I need to keep our children safe. So while the MCPS puts those guidelines, it is possible they can come back in 5, but for us, that has not happened yet.
Well, I think I hopefully can channel everyone on this call, but also more broadly, all the parents, that we thank you for your work and understanding and grace. I can only imagine what it's like to be there. Well, and some days not there because there's a snow day constantly.
Or a half
And
day tomorrow.
and a half day, and to deal with all of that, and the concerns of parents, and the change in guidance, and the distribution of the tests, and all the many things. So thank you for all that you all are doing, and I think that this is reflected in my child, who's happy and learning and all of those good things. So thank you. There's a question here in the chat about, will tests be distributed to parents again, or is this a one-time distribution?
So MCPS has not given us any guidance that there will be an additional distribution of tests. Each test kit does have 2 tests in it. And the directions only say what to do with one of the tests. So I would liken it to say, if you need that second test, for whatever you need that for. Because they have not set up another testing time or date. Yeah. So
I thought I had read somewhere, sorry, this is Teresa. Maybe I'm just mixing up my emails. I thought I had read somewhere that we had to take them both 3 days apart. Was that not in a message that I read? Or had to have the kids take them both?
I did not read that.
Okay. I'll scan
But
through my emails
honestly,
while we're
I'm
on this.
reading as you're reading. So
Yeah, no big deal. We've just been trying to follow along. I'll check while we're on here.
Yeah.
Is a rapid test enough to return to school, or do you need a PCR test?
So that's a great question. If somebody tests positive, they do not have to be tested to return to school. If anybody that tests positive, any child that tests positive, it is a 10-day out quarantine, and they cannot return with any symptoms or with a fever. So, but we do not require a negative rapid test or a negative PCR test to return. The only time that comes into play is, let's say your child goes to the health room with a severe headache, a terrible sore throat, and we call and say, do you want us to give your child a rapid test while they're here? Parent says, no, I don't want my child to have a rapid test. Then what we will say is, because these could be symptoms of COVID, we will require you to come pick your child up now. They cannot return to school until they have an alternate diagnosis from the doctor, let's say it's strep, a negative PCR test, or they have quarantined for 10 days. So that really is, with that as the only time, because once you test positive, there's a possibility you would still test positive just because it's still the virus is still in your system, even though you are now not contagious and not showing symptoms. So there is no requirement to test back to come to school. Once you're positive, you're out for 10 days.
There's another question here. Are only some schools doing tests? This person's other daughter, MCPS, had not received a test to bring home.
Oh, that's another great question. Your great questions. I think, why didn't I put that in my connected? So thank you for asking it. Schools have all week to distribute the tests. And honestly, I had gotten a few calls from parents asking about them last week when they had not even arrived. They came late on Friday afternoon on that snow day. We spent yesterday organizing them to prepare to send today. But the directives were to all schools, elementary, middle, and high school. They need to go home one day this week. So it would be before Friday. We just were able, we really wanted to move on ours. So we got them out today.
Another question, how do you, air quotes, report a test result?
So families It's happening in a couple different ways. There is that Google form that has been in the Connect Ed and on MCPS messages that asks you to report your child if you're positive. It's the same form. Staff members also, it's like, is it a student or a staff? What's the name? What's your contact information? What was the date you tested positive? So that is one way to report. We also, in most cases, the parent is letting the teacher know or Matthew and me directly. Once you let the teacher know, that comes to us and we start the process, because once we find out a student is positive, we start the contact tracing. Did the child ride the bus? Who did the child sit with on the bus? Did the child eat breakfast? Who was the child sitting within 3 feet during breakfast? Did the child sit on the carpet? How was the child at wearing the mask? Is this child need frequent reminders to put the mask up or put down? What special did they go to? PE is a high risk, so is music special. So we get a list from the teachers, the bus driver, and the specialist who they consider in close contact to that person that tested positive, that the parent let us know or the teacher let us know. The contact tracing is mostly done by Matthew, myself, or Madam Riley, Michelle Ann. And then we start making phone calls. We look up each incident. Were they masked? Were they fully masked? Are they vaccinated? Are they not? Do they participate in weekly testing? All of these come into play. We go through each one individually. That's why we work together as a team. Then we we identify the letter that would go home. So if a student gets positive, here's information about positive. If you want to do the virtual learning, here's the Zoom information. Here are the resources for that. So the easiest way to answer that question is, how do parents let us know? We are finding out in various ways, through the teacher, through the parent directly, or through the MCPS reporting document.
Thank you. So just first of all, Teresa noted that she must have invented the 3 days. She can't find it now. So I think that is correct that we all are directed to use the first test tonight and then the second one when needed. And you just noted the virtual learning. So that's one of my questions. If all 600 some odd kids at Maryvale test tonight, there's going to be a fair number of positives, probably. I mean, I don't know, but just, there might be a hidden number that we're discovering, which is good for our overall community, but those children will be quarantining for 10 days. What is this, or be it testing tonight or at any point, for the students that are quarantining largely because they may themselves have it, what are the resources or what's available to do schooling in that time so that they don't fall behind?
So we have 3 different things, and we need to talk about students learning in English and students learning in French. Our students learning in English are, Maryvale's part of the regional quarantine, it's called, meaning teachers from each of the schools that agreed to participate in this sign up for 1 content or 2 content areas in different grade levels. And so that way we had enough staff, because we're pulling everybody's staff to teach the lessons. There's 1 literacy lesson and 1 math lesson taught a day in a Zoom format. So our reading specialist, Maria Giordano, does the literacy, and Ann Stevenson, our staff development teacher, has volunteered to do some of the math. They each take a different grade level. So when a child tests positive or is asked to quarantine, and they are learning in English, they we add their name to the quarantine list. We send a specific letter with the Zoom information for them to log in Zoom. The other opportunity is, and they are following along the same scope and sequence of the MCPS curriculum. So it's Eureka or Benchmark. We also ask all of our teachers teaching in English or in French to keep their Canvas site uploaded with the current assignments. So along with the quarantine teaching for students learning in English, they can also have access to any assignments or slide decks that the classroom teacher has used. If your student is learning in French, the quarantine, really there's only one other school that teaches in French. So Madam Riley has banded grade levels together, and she will do a math and a literacy lesson each day. I think math is done by grade level, and I think for the reading, she bands them together. And the teachers teaching in French also have their Canvas sites uploaded with their slide decks and assignments as well. I will say, we don't want anybody, this is offered to students, but if we have a child that's sick, we all get as much time as we need to get these assignments done and the work done. We don't, we don't want anybody pushing to do these things if they're not feeling well, for sure.
Thank you. Any other questions for Ms. Prin? All right. Well, thank you again. We so appreciate all that you all are doing, and we know that this is not an easy time. So thank you. Okay, so I'm at this point turning it over to Acacia and Keith, but specifically Acacia, to talk about the treasurer's report and to present the budget. And we will be asking for everybody who is a member can vote on the budget. So Acacia, I'll hand it over to you.
Okay. First, I'm going to give the monthly update on the bank accounts and kind of expenses and income that we had for the month of December. And then I'll go over the changes that we made to the budget and explain some of those. So at the end of December, the bank balance was $12,809.70. We had 3 outstanding checks for $418.90. So our balance on hand at the end of the month was $12,390.80. We had $28 in PayPal as a balance that I have since transferred into our account. Some of the income that we had for December was book fare, clothing to cash, a little bit, one more donation of Cougar Cash, like 5 memberships, and the Chipotle restaurant night, which was like $800. So that income totaled $1,079. We had no transactions on Square, no transactions on PayPal, even though we had that balance left over. Member Hub had $59.44 in transactions. We purchased more t-shirts for Spirit Gear. That was $197, and that's a cost of goods sold, so not part of expenses. So then our expenses we had for December were $1,155.47. We had a little bit for the Cougar Cash Drive celebration, where we bought whipped cream for that celebration. We had some Stripe fees, PayPal fees, a bank charge. A bigger expense was renewing our website for $289. And we paid dues to the state, national, and Free State PTA. And we renewed our movie license fee for $274. We reimbursed the library for $97 in books. And we've already given some teachers the teacher support grant so far this year. And this month we did $258 of those reimbursements. So some notes of the things that were accomplished and things to do. I filed the COF 85 and the annual update of registration, which are 2 tax forms that go to the state of Maryland that we do every year. And it just kind of details as a nonprofit what we brought in and then what we did with that. So we kind of have to justify, like, we can't just take in money and then not justify what we do with it. So I kind of outline our 3 biggest expenses, which is program expenses mostly, and teacher support grants. And then kind of itemize that out for the state so they can see what we're doing with it. So that has been filed, but I have not given copies to the county, and that just has to be done within 30 days. And we're still dealing with an issue of transferring money from a Facebook fundraiser that we did for Cougar Cash. Things got confusing, and we are trying to straighten that out. So that is the treasurer's update for the month of December. And then next I have the budget. So I'm gonna share my screen so you can see the numbers that I'm talking about. Okay, so here we are, and so the reason we're kind of reviewing the budget again here in January is that, and it seems to be a trend, that we have a year that's unusual. And it's hard for us to decide what exactly is going to happen in the year. So we do our best guess over the summer and, pass a budget in October. And then we've been reevaluating in January to see, if we need to alter some of that. Every time that we make a change in any small line item, the board approves. Anytime that we make a change in this overview budget, it needs to come to the general membership to approve. So we've already approved the budget at the board level, which is details like how much for postage. And so at the membership, we kind of talk about bigger line items here. So as you can guess, that we did make some changes. We were able to bring in more for fundraising than we anticipated. So we needed to make some changes there. And we've also outlined some potential in-person or outdoor events that we are hoping to hold in the spring as the weather gets warm and we can do outside things. And of course, we're being optimistic, but we have to kind of build an optimistic expense budget. And so that's what we've done. We're planning on more restaurant nights, some outdoor movie nights again, an international night, book fair, science fair, spring fling, hopefully a 5th grade promotion. We give $4,000 in books to the library. We provide supplies for the patrol program, including training and belts. And then we also have put in some money for on-demand program support, which would be things like the music department coming to us and asking for some supplies that we didn't anticipate, or a new microphone for the library, so things like that. That's the stuff that's happened in the past. And then moving forward into the next year, we have to leave a certain amount to cover our expenses over the summer until we start bringing in money again through dues in the fall. And normally we leave about $2,500 to carry us over that time period. This year, we've decided to carry over about $4,000 because we're planning to do a new program this summer, like a back to school supply promotion with membership. And since it's the first year doing that, we're not sure exactly how that's going to play out with our expenses. So we wanted to leave a buffer. So here is the budget that we've come up with for covering the whole year that we've kind of changed the numbers for. So the balance carried forward is what we started the fiscal year, which starts in July with, and then here we've got laid out income in the lines of donations, fundraising, membership dues, and then cost of goods sold is buying t-shirts that we then sell for the spirit gear. And then expenses, we've got committee expenses, which is like teacher appreciation and stuff like that, family engagement programs, which are the science fair, international night, those things are, and I think science fair falls in that. So those are family engagement programs. Fundraising expenses, the operational expenses are like our website and postage and supplies like that. Organizational expenses are what we pay to be part of a PTA. So those go to, you know, state and national and other fees that are associated with that. Other expenses are like movie license fees, where we hold a movie license that covers us and the whole school. If we want to show a movie at movie night, we're covered to do that, and teachers are able to use those movies that are on that list as well for their classrooms. Program support expenses is, as you can see, our biggest line item, as it should be, and that's where all those funds go to the library and patrols and things like that. And then that, so it looks, our total expenses there are anticipated to be 17,000. So of the, you know, 8,000 up here in yellow that we start with, we plan to bring in, or to take 4,000 of that in our expenses, leaving us with 4,210.72 going forward to the next year, which is right in our goal. So if anybody has any questions, now's the time. I'll try to lay this in a way that everybody can see. And if not, we'll move along with voting on the budget. Okay, does anybody move to approve the budget?
I so moved.
Okay, sounds like a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any not in favor? Okay, so the budget has been approved, and that's the end for the treasurer's report and the budget.
Thank you very much, Acacia. And again, you know, thank you for all the work that went into making that budget. We appreciate that. That's not a small ask. So thank you. Okay, so moving on to other business. The first item here is a spring planning conversation. Acacia noted some of this, but I just want to backtrack. This is a little spring planning, a little fundraising, and a little bit of events updates. So we recognize the world that we're in right now with COVID, but are still optimistic that this Omicron peak might be fast and that there might be a world on the other side in which we can do some events in person in the spring. So in the short term, we are looking at doing a virtual story time. This actually, Teresa has done a great job of convening the leadership of the PTAs from all of the Rockville high school clusters. So there's 5 elementary schools that feed up to Rockville, and we've been meeting with them quarterly, and that's been a great just idea exchange where we can, you know, ask each other questions and hear what they're doing, et cetera. And Flower Valley Elementary School does an online story time where 5th graders read books, and then the younger kids all, you know, sit in their pajamas and listen. And it's the 5th graders love reading, the little kids love seeing the big kids read. So we're hoping to do that in February. Stay tuned. We also have a tentative date of actually not so tentative date of April 2nd, which is a Saturday morning for our science fair. So those of you who've been around for a little while, the science fair was always such a great event that we did every year, and it's time to bring it back. So we're doing it on a Saturday morning in April on purpose. We will, you know, hopefully have it in the cafeteria, but if we need to, because of COVID reasons, we could also spill it out into like the playground and do it outdoors if necessary. So there will be more information coming home, but basically as a parent, it's time to get your kid excited about a big science project that they get to work on and make a display board and get a certificate and talk to a real scientist who will come around and talk with them about their project. And it's pretty cool. And if you as a parent are in the science field, we need judges, and it's not really a competition. There's not first, second, third place, but it's more somebody who can go and look at the kids' project and talk with them about it and talk a little bit about science. So Kem, who is on, is organizing that this year. So thank you very much. And we're excited for that. And we also will need some volunteers to help Kem. So this is as a member, when you signed up, we asked you what you'd like to help with, and we're beginning to actually go into that world, and we can send out follow-up emails, but she'll need help with the organizing and the communications and the certificates and all of those types of things. So more on that soon. We also are looking at a book fair. So this is Sandra gets credit for this one, in person in the spring. So we did the online one, which, to be honest, raised only a modest amount of money. But the in-person one usually raises quite a bit. And we don't have a date yet, but we're also looking at April, perhaps, overlapping with the science fair, because when you get a lot of people who come to a science fair, and if they can go peruse books, that's a great time to go buy books as well. So this will be, the kids get to go during the day. You can send your child with money and they can get books. And then as a parent, we'll have some windows open for when you can come, again, with all the COVID thoughts around small groups or what have you, but we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. We're all hoping April is going to be something we can actually do. But that's another one that Sandra will definitely need volunteers for, parents to come and work the cash register and sell the books and set up and take down and count money and all of those types of things. It's a pretty big endeavor, and one that will definitely require some volunteers. We also are looking at May for kind of a big fair. For those of you who've been involved before, we've had spring fling or fall fling. We've had International Night, which is another one of our big events, and we've had a silent auction. So we're looking at kind of maybe combining different aspects of that. Not a full spring fling, but some carnival games, maybe not a full International Night, but some aspects of that, and the silent auction. Again, the term International Night might be misleading. We may do this on like a Saturday morning because of the outdoor aspect, but more to come on that. So those are just kind of what we're hoping to get accomplished this spring. We're also maybe some movie nights, perhaps, Wheaton Woods Elementary does food truck Fridays. We thought that was kind of a cool idea. Maybe we can organize something like that. But these are things that we're hoping will happen, and you'll see more communication, and we will definitely need volunteers for that. So we'll be reaching out. And thank you to Teresa and Sandra and Kem, who are all taking leadership roles around all of this. Anything I missed or you all want to talk about, having me just done all the talking? Okay, any questions? All right. So then we're always seeking, if you're looking to step up and do more volunteering, a communications chair, volunteers chair, and a programs and events chair. That's kind of my standard ask. But if that sounds like a lot, as I say, think about whether you can do a discrete ask around one of those events I just mentioned, the science fair, the book fair, the spring fling, etc. And with that, I think that moves us into open forum. So are there any other topics that anybody wants to bring up or address tonight? All right. No further thoughts or comments?
I have a question. I know
Go ahead.
that we had some coats, and I was wondering, like, we did a coat drive and there were coats. I was wondering if everybody's still okay, if we still have enough, if those have been used or we need to replenish.
We have given out several of the coats, so good news, because everybody's generous donation really is making a difference with our students. We do have several coats. We have less in the larger size coats, like for our 5th grade boys that are really almost men's sizes now. But we have been able, with the generous donations from last year, we still have coats. So at this time, we've been able to fulfill all of the need, but they are going to good use, and we have given them out. Same thing with the hats and the boots and the mittens that came in.
All right, thank you. Anything else? All right, well, thank you again for joining tonight. Hopefully by the time we reconvene in February, it'll be a little less tumultuous times. Our next meeting is Tuesday, February 8th. As a reminder, I don't think I announced this. We have a restaurant night, a restaurant week next week, Baronessa Italian Restaurant, which is right on Goody Drive. And actually they will give us a cut if you order it any night next week. fortunately, restaurant nights used to be, gathering places where we would all see each other. Not so much anymore, but at least the food's very good. So thank you, Sandra, for arranging that. And I think that's all that we have.
Hey,
Teresa?
Amanda,
Mhm.
just
Yes.
on the restaurant night announcement, I'll put in a plug for the shared calendar. If you go to our maryvalepta.org website and go to the calendar tab, there's directions there for how to subscribe to our calendar. You can look at it on the web too, but I don't do that. Then it'll just show up in your phone calendar along with everything else. And that makes it so much easier to remember about our events.
Yes. But there's another restaurant night at Panera in February. Thank you, Rachel. I think February 14th, right? Valentine's? Nothing better than Panera for Valentine's. They have good desserts. So, all right. Thank you again and have a good evening and stay well.
Bye.